true.
But our Oakland A's have finally won the playoff series.
Woo! Go
Yeah.
Oakland!
Yeah, against my
Go
White Sox.
Oakland! I want to see them annihilate those cheating so-and-sos from Houston. Sorry for all my Texas friends.
John, I just started the recording, so now you're on record.
I see. Well, let's see. Well, welcome. Chris Betsch is here, and Mr. Young, and Meredith from DC.
Oh, hey, Meredith.
Hi there, everyone.
Hi there. Great to have you with us.
Hi.
Well, Jim, do we want to begin or let folks have a grace period?
Your call, John. Monty, let's see. We have 23 people online. That's about what you expected, correct?
Yeah, we're just missing one or two, so I think we could start.
Let's get going. Well, welcome everybody. My name is John Leonidakis. I'm with the Los Angeles chapter of SABR, and I am the leader of the baseball's program here in Los Angeles. And our program has been going for just over 2 years. We began in August of 2018. And I was the beneficiary of having the counsel and support of our friends with the South Texas chapter. I believe it's the Rogers Hornsby group, and Jim and Monty and so forth helped me. And we're here to help you. So that's my introduction. I'll turn it over to Jim and Monty and George to introduce themselves, and then we'll get to know you.
Go ahead, Monty.
Okay, yeah, Monte Cely here, live in Round Rock, Texas, outside of Austin. As John mentioned, part of the Rogers Hornsby chapter that serves Central and South Texas. Jim, myself, Dan Walsh, Ira Siegel, trying to see who else we've got. Mike McNulty on the list. We've been working on reminiscence programs for about 5 years here in Texas. Currently, at least prior to the pandemic, had 4 active programs going throughout the Austin and San Antonio area. Some of them are transitioning online now. So want to echo what John said. We're anxious to share our expertise in doing baseball reminiscence with other chapters in SABR.
Very good. How about Jim?
Echo what Monty said. We've been in this thing 5.5 years now and have enjoyed every minute.
Great to have you. And George, give us a little bit on what you've been doing back east.
All right. I tried to start a reminiscence program about 4.5 years ago or so. And it was not an easy thing to get started with a program like that. However, I got involved with a senior center giving a senior program. That is a non-dementia group. And then a couple of years ago, finally, I was able to get a reminiscence group started in an adult daycare center with people who have dementia and Alzheimer's, and had 2 of those programs. However, one closed because I understand for financial difficulties, and the other one right now has their activity suspended because of the pandemic. However, my seniors program has continued. And it's being done through conference calls twice a month, because some of the seniors don't have computers, so that we can't do it on Zoom. So the program not only involves people that have memory issues, but also involves people who are seniors, who are may have some loneliness situations, and reaches out to various people in the community. So although we are involved with reminiscence, there are other opportunities to do volunteer work among people who really need some social contact. And that's very important these days.
Okay, well, very good. I just want to go around the room very quickly. Just tell us who you are, your chapter, and your favorite team. We'll start with Steve.
Steve Leppert from Columbus, Ohio, the Hank Gowdy chapter. Favorite team overall is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Embarrassed to say this year. And then secondly in the American League would be the Indians.
Very good. Kimmy, say hello to everyone.
Well, hello, everyone. So nice to meet everyone. I'd like to congratulate Jim and Monty, George, and John for doing such a great job with all their reminiscence programs. I belong to the LA chapter, and we have our wonderful leader, John, who is great at all the programs that we have there. So thank you. And I am a Dodger fan.
And it's also important to mention that Kimmy's late brother, Michael, was a very big advocate for baseball reminiscence therapy. He was a professor, I believe, at the University of Connecticut. And Michael was very helpful to all of us while he was here with us, and he was very much missed. But I think his spirit is with us as we embark on this journey together.
I'd like to add that I live in Greenwich, Connecticut, and Monty and Jim put me in touch with Michael Ego, and I met with him several times, and he was of invaluable help. I mean, it was tremendous what he taught me and how he led me in the right direction, so that the program could go ahead. And so it's something that I really miss him for what he has done for this program.
Very well said. Gary.
I'm Gary West. I live in near Seattle in a city called Kenton. I'm a part of the Pacific Northwest chapter. My favorite ball team, of course, is the Mariners, and also I root my National League team. I root for the Cardinals, and I've been a SABR member for a few years.
Nice to have you with us. Joe Shaw.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Shaw. I'm the president of the Cleveland Jack Graney chapter. We're just starting on this journey, and we've had some very good interactions with John and Monty. I'm looking forward to learning more today. And as far as favorite team, I'm in Cleveland, but I'm a Yankee fan first and an Indians fan second.
Nice to know. Very good. How about Frank?
My name is Frank Collins. I'm in the Mathewson Plank chapter here in central Pennsylvania. We're a relatively new chapter, less than a year old, still trying to get our legs underneath of us. But this is a program that I'd like to present to them. I've been a Yankees fan since 1960, but I would really enjoy seeing the Indians win a championship. It's been a long time.
Wait till next year.
Great show.
All right. How about Rob?
Yeah, I'm in Las Vegas fairly recently, and trying to get this thing started. And I thank Monty and John for the assistance they're offering and the kind of support that we need to at least get this thing off the ground. I grew up a Yankee fan because I grew up in Syracuse, and then for many years lived in Chicago, was a Cubs fan, and I went to work for the Giants about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a Giants fan because they pay me money. But we've been disappointed the last 3 seasons or more now. In any case, I appreciate the opportunity to get involved in this program, and hearing George's comment about how difficult it is to get started, I kind of can relate to that and look forward to hearing your stories on how you got this thing going and how you made it successful. Thank you.
We're going to get there. Good to have you with us, Rob. How about Dan? Oh, you have to unmute yourself there, Dan. There you go.
Hi, I'm Dan Walsh. I live in Buda, Texas, which is right outside Austin. been in SABR since 1980 something. I grew up in LA, so I'm a Dodger fan. And they're going all the way this year. So I've been involved with the Reminiscence program since we started in what, 15, so forth. Also involved in a program we have at the VA hospital in Kerrville, Texas, which has been very successful, I think, although we haven't met since February due to COVID. But we hope to get back online with them next year.
Very good. And Greg Johnson is with us.
Yeah, Greg Johnson, the Lefty O'Doul chapter in San Francisco. I kind of grew up a Giants fan, but moved to the East Bay, so now I'm Oakland A's all the way. Plus the Sacramento River Cats. My daughter works for them, so I've been a fan since she's been working for them for the last 10 years. And was introduced to this program last year at a SABR meeting, and Monte sent me a bunch of material, and then John a couple of weeks ago did a nice little Zoom overview for us. So it's very exciting. I think it's everything I hear about it, I fall more in love with it, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more stories about it, but mainly how to get this thing started in this really strange time we're in.
Very good. And we're going to get and I think that there are possibilities to get these things started during the pandemic, and we're going to touch on that. Right. How about Mr. Meyer?
Yes, here we are. Yeah, my name's Tad Meyer. I'm the chief of the Pee Wee Reese chapter here in Louisville. I grew up in Paducah, Kentucky, far western Kentucky, and that's why I am a hardcore Cardinal fan. And grieving for a couple reasons today. Mostly Bob Gibson was my favorite player of all time. And in the American League, I've always rooted for the Twins, going back to Mudcat Grant.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Nice to have you with us. Ira.
Yeah, and Monty helped introduce us. We're just getting started. I mean, this is really the beginning for us on this.
Okay. Go ahead, Ira.
Hi, I'm Ira SEGEL in Austin, Texas now. Originally a New Yorker, I'm a lifelong Yankee fan. Been involved in the Hornsby chapter with the program that Jim started since basically season 2. I think I was on a flight and couldn't make it to the first season. And let's see, long ago, I guess I was an Alan Roth chapter member. I lived in LA for a long time, and I was a member, it's like between 20 and 35 years ago. But I've been with the program about 5 years, and looking forward to bigger and better things.
Well, great to have you with us, Ira.
Thank you.
How about Mike?
Hi, I'm Mike McNulty. Hornsby chapter, so I've worked with Jim and pretty much everybody else here kind of since we got going. I'm originally from Boston, so I'm a big Red Sox fan.
Very good. And Monty has said hello already. We have Bill here. Hi, Bill.
Yeah, hi.
Which Bill?
Which Bill?
Bill Grimes.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Bill Grimes.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I got involved. Well, I started a website 10 or 15 years ago with stories of an interesting event in baseball for each day of the year. And I thought, who would really like this more than anybody? Fans, people who have loved baseball all their lives. I started reading some articles and came across, I think it was an AARP article about reminiscence therapy, I think in St. Louis, at St. Louis University, possibly, or maybe there was another, as you probably, some of you have been involved in that. But I thought people with dementia, Alzheimer's, sometimes their long-term memory is much better than a short-term. So they remember these old stories. So I wanted to make the stories I have just about every day of the year. I have a story, 300, 400 words, not just a one-liner. And I wanted to share that with with people who would get a kick out of reliving the past.
Very good.
Oh,
Thanks,
by the
Bill.
and I'm a fan. Actually, I have two favorite teams: the White Sox and whoever's playing the Cubs.
Very good.
Ron.
All right, Ron.
Ron Kaplan from the Elysian Fields chapter in Northern New Jersey. I'm not sure exactly where I read about this program, but it sounds like something really nice and something I want to see if we can get started here.
Excellent. Favorite team, Ron?
Mets.
You said the Mets?
Yep.
Very good, sir. Kelly.
Good afternoon, Kelly Park, Pee Wee Reese chapter. So I follow Tad's lead. St. Louis Cardinal fan, and yes, we're grieving as Lou Brock and Bob Gibson were the first two players I chose to follow as a young boy, and read about baseball remembrance initiative back. It was probably a SABR publication, but dementia is strong in my family, and it's something that has been weighing on my mind, no pun intended, for a number of years now. So I think it's something that I would I'm interested in learning more about, because it's something that needs to be done about it.
Very good, sir. Mr. Young.
Hey, yeah, I'm in Warner Robins, Georgia, Cubs fan. I'm not active in a chapter. The nearest is in Atlanta, the Magnolia chapter, I believe. But yeah, like Kelly, I have some members of my family who suffered from Alzheimer's, and so I'm interested in it and want to learn more about what I can do and how to be involved.
Great. Glad to have you with us. Meredith.
Hi, I'm Meredith Sandler from Washington, D.C. area, raised up in north of Chicago. So our team was the White Sox. And now I'm in D.C., so the Nationals are my team. But, there's the Marlins. There's, it's kind of like who's kicking off whom, what is it? The enemy of my friend is whatever, how that goes. How does that go? Whatever. So my father and my mother, but my father had dementia, and I noticed as he was declining how he really enjoyed baseball games. So that was a way to keep him involved. My interest is I'm a member of SABR and a member of the Bob Davis chapter, but I've been going to a lot of chapter meetings, the Women in Baseball, various ones. And so I don't know if this is required, but I think of my own, neighborhood, DC neighbors area, all elderly, or I have a group of, I call them, well, there's a meetup group, the Nats Baby Boomers fans. All of us are baby boomers age, about 75 of us, and from all over the DC area. So I was thinking, they might be interested, or at least one person might have an in to a place. And then there's, I'm also involved with the AARP chapter of Northern or Montgomery County. That's a more diverse group, and I'm kind of interested in that possibility too. So I'm kind of trying to learn more about it.
Sure. Bill N.
Hi, I'm a native of Boston and a traumatized Red Sox fan for life. But the last 17 years, we seem to manage to either finish first or last. It's been kind of a weird stretch. I'm on the board of directors of SABR, and very happy that the board has wanted to back this initiative. And I've heard about it for several years, and I just wanted to learn more.
Great to have you with us. Marlene.
Hi, I'm Marlene Vogelsang. I'm with the Lefty O'Doul chapter in Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area with Greg. We looked at doing this a little while ago and we didn't get an invitation. So I'm hoping with Greg's interest and the renewed support, and congratulations on becoming a special interest section of SABR. I think this is great. It'll really get the word out. Looking forward to seeing how we can be involved here in the Bay Area, especially now. I'm a lifelong A's fan, but I've certainly enjoyed watching some of these other clubs, especially this postseason. There's some good talent out there. So congratulations to everybody.
Great. Chris.
Hey there, Chris Betsch. I'm with Tad and Kelly in the Pee Wee Reese chapter in Louisville, even though I live across the Ohio River over in southern Indiana. But I originally grew up in the Atlanta area, so I guess I'm the one Braves fan here.
Oh, great to have you
look
with us.
forward to getting some information.
Good. And Ann is with us. And let's see, Ann, you just have to unmute. Well, I saw her a minute ago. Oh, there you are. Hi, Ann. There you go. Go ahead and introduce yourself. We can see you, but we can't hear you. Well, this is bound to happen in one of these crazy things.
John, I think Ann, it might be on 2 devices.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that one device is definitely muted, but that might be causing her some interference with the other one.
I just removed the second one. Let's see if that works.
Can you hear us, Ann? Can you try to talk? Oh, good. You know,
Oh
always
yeah, when all else fails, get the teenager.
get a millennial. Absolutely. Where would us boomers be without our millennials to
Oh God.
get us through hardware and software issues? You know, I know that, oh, hi, Ann, we still can't hear you, but we know that Ann is with the text, Jim, she's with the Texas group.
Absolutely.
And Ann is also the author of a terrific book about the
Cloudbuster 9, about Ted Williams and her father, who was a bat boy for the Navy team during at Chapel Hill during the Second World War.
Thanks for filling that in there, Bill. Good. Well, you know, what a great cross section of chapters and people from all around our great country. Thank you for coming together. So we're going to move into the next part of our agenda, where the 3 of us, George, the Texas folks, one of them, and myself, we're going to tell you a little bit about our programs, and just kind of give you a bite-sized sample of that. I will, you know, Jim or Monte, why don't you guys start off with Baseball's Texas, because you've certainly been the longest group going and have quite a breadth of experience.
Well, as Monty said, we started this 5.5 years ago. We approached the Alzheimer's Texas Association in Austin, and they were quite receptive and have been a partner ever since. We also, however, as Dan mentioned, run a program at the VA hospital in Kerrville, Texas, which is about 60 miles away. As we talk about getting a program started in your city, if you run into any roadblocks with the local Alzheimer's Association, we have a program in San Antonio that's run through a local church. And we started out with one church, and right before the pandemic hit, we were in the process of inviting other churches to bring their seniors into the program. So that, if we don't get to it, that's a model to remember in terms of getting your foot in the door. We also just started a program this year in Georgetown, which is 15 miles north of Austin, near a Dale Webb community. And before we had a single participant, we had over 20 volunteers. So that's another way to go. So anxious to share whatever questions you guys might have as we go through the remainder of this meeting.
And a member of the Texas group was a friend of mine in Los Angeles. He moved to Texas. He came back. I saw him at a softball game, and he told me about what they were doing. And that's a great idea. So I asked our chapter president, Barry Mednick, if I could start one here in Los Angeles. And he said, sure, go ahead. And I went out into the woods, you know, in the web, and I found the Alzheimer's Los Angeles, which is a nonprofit, and approached them and said, hey, you know, this is what I'm proposing. He said, well, let's do one and give it a try. And it was successful. And we started out just meeting in a conference room at Alzheimer's Los Angeles, which provides resources. It's a resource center. It's a free resource center to people dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's. And by the way, Alzheimer's is the 6th leading killer of Americans. And Alzheimer's and dementia isn't as taken as seriously in this country as it ought to be, because there's a lot of ignorance surrounding it. But it casts a long shadow over our country. So it's very important to have programs like this. But what we did was we started out meeting with everybody always comes with a caregiver, and we deal with people who are, I was told, you really want to work typically with people in the early to moderate stages, because once they're in the severe stage, it's very, very difficult. So we started with, basically the idea is to get people to talk, to get socialize. And so we'll get them to talk and share stories. We'll say, look, bring in an object, memorabilia, an old cap, a pennant, anything. Even if you don't, just tell us a story about baseball. And the idea is that we're providing a welcoming environment for people to connect with each other. That's a big piece and a big struggle for people with memory care issues, is they disconnect from their family and friends around them, even if they've been very vivacious. We do presentations. We'll do some PowerPoint stuff. You know, we try to feature programming content that is relative to people who are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, post-World War II era, 1950s, 60s, so on and so forth. We also folded in a physical component, playing catch with plastic balls, and evolved that into playing, into having batting practice. And it's really something to pitch batting practice to a 95-year-old World War II veteran who says, I haven't swung a bat in 75 years. These people light up, they open up like flowers. It has been marvelous. And our program is thriving during the pandemic because we got started beforehand. So we're doing we meet once a month over Zoom. And I think there's a lot of potential there. It takes a little bit of work. But that's our story here. Oh, we also work with the Veterans Administration Home for Heroes in Los Angeles. That's a live-in medical facility for people with long and short-term medical issues, guys missing limbs, people who are on dialysis. And those are much more presentational, because some of them can't really communicate very well. But we've gotten them involved in the physical component as well, swinging a bat, hitting a ball off a tee. George had gave us a little bit of an idea about his program back east. I don't know if there's anything further you wanted to elaborate on that, George.
Well, I got started because I heard a speaker at a luncheon that I attended say that he was involved with senior centers and they needed volunteers to entertain these people. And that if you know how to play a musical instrument, it would help, or sing, which I don't do either one very well. And I thought about a baseball reminiscence program, because I get together every month with friends of mine and we talk baseball. And I spoke with a social worker. In fact, I spoke with a couple of them, and really, and I asked them if I could do this at any place that they could refer me to. I didn't get anywhere. And it was understandable, because they really didn't know me. They didn't know what I could do or what I could present. But then I finally, through a social worker who I knew, got involved with the Westchester Jewish Community Services that provides daycare for seniors. And so I started a program there, and that's been going on for 4 years. And then Michael Ego he gave a lot of interviews. He would do radio interviews. He would write opinion letters that were published in the newspaper. And then one day, USA Today published something about his reminiscence programs. And then that got onto the radio and TV. So I took that, and then I again went to these social workers that I knew or that I had made contact with and said, look what's going on elsewhere. Can't we get started with this here in this area? So Westchester Family Services then said, okay, let's give it a try. And that was the foot in the door. They didn't know me. They didn't know my background. So you do have to get to know the people who you're speaking with, because they're putting you in front of people that they have a responsibility for. And they want to know that you're a reliable person and that you know how to conduct yourself. And so it's very important to be fully prepared with what you're going to be doing. And so Westchester Family Services put me into two places, one in Mount Vernon, New York, and the other one in Mount Kisco, New York. Both are communities within Westchester County. And I found that that was a dementia Alzheimer's group, those two. So I had these three different programs going on, but I could use the same material with certain adjustments. And so even if you had a half a dozen different places, the same program can be used, and you can refine them and adjust them with the nature of the people with whom you're trying to speak. The main purpose that I was trying to do was having them engage in a conversation, not just standing there and talking for an hour. I didn't want to do that. I wanted them to speak, so that if I mentioned Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe, you know, they'd start talking about movies and the Yankees, and that worked very nicely. So in order to get this started, you have to make a content and be ready to give a good impression that you know what you're doing and that other people are doing this successfully.
Okay, thank you, George. I want to point out that we have resources available online through our group here on SABR. There's information on the benefits of reminiscence therapy, a lot of other helpful information. Like I'm sure most of you are, a lot of us, I didn't know anything about Alzheimer's and dementia when I went into this. And you can go to the Alzheimer's Association website and you can learn. There's some wonderful quick video programs that will give you some insight. And it's very, very important to understand the main goal of these programs is not us coming and showing everyone how smart we are about baseball and baseball history. We're there to provide a welcoming community for these people to share and talk about their memories of baseball and to engage them. It's about them. It's not about us. And we've had a couple of instances where we get somebody in there who just wants to blab on and on and on and on. And that is antithetical to what we want to do. And we've had situations where, you know, one of the Alzheimer's patients will say, well, you know, Babe Ruth hit 71 home runs in 1920, and this guy just got all of them. Oh, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. The worst thing you can possibly do is to get into an argument with someone who has Alzheimer's and dementia. So you want to be very sensitive to those types of things. So anything you can do to educate yourself, and like I said, go over to the Alzheimer's Association website. There's a lot of really terrific information there. The other thing that I want to mention is that we have an affiliation, a partnership with the pioneer in sports reminiscence therapy, and that is Michael White of Scotland. Michael started his program in 2009 when a friend, and he's a soccer historian, and his friend had Alzheimer's. And they started talking about soccer history to get his friend engaged, because that's the big piece, right? Is the socialization. It also increases cognitive functions. It helps people with fighting depression. So His efforts have resulted in over 250 sports reminiscence programs, golf, soccer, what have you, in Scotland. In the United States, we have 9. And in his programs in Scotland, they actually have national government financial backing. But he started out a lot like we are. This is a grassroots kind of movement. And I think that's a great way to put this. This is a movement. And we're here to help with this issue with our fellow Americans and so on and so forth. But our goal is to help create and inspire other SABR members to either start up or participate programs. Some people might say, I'm not a leader. I can't run around and knock on doors and plan these things and go and do them, but I'm helpful doing research, or I can do this. Everybody has a different skill they can bring to the table in these matters. I'm sorry, someone else was going to say something. Was that Jim or Monty?
No, it was me. I was, John, you had said what activities you did. George, it sounds like you worked pretty hard at the activities. Could you just give us a short rundown of the things you've done with these folks?
Now, would you like it with the Alzheimer's group or the dementia group or the senior citizens?
Let's start with Alzheimer's.
All right. With them, the first thing I did is I spoke with a fellow who is involved with Alzheimer's people, and he gave me some tips as to how to conduct myself. And John alluded to that just a few minutes ago. One was you learn not to argue, and you have to avoid any tension with any of these people, because I found that in certain situations, their personality changes in an instant. They might be smiling and laughing, and then suddenly they become very aggressive. So you have to avoid situations like that. In most cases with Alzheimer's people and dementia people, there will be staff there. There's staff that are sitting with these people and aides that are sitting with these people, so that I've never been alone in a room with the people involved in the program. The seniors, that's a different situation. You then have to speak with, learn how to speak with people who have dementia. For example, I never say to them, do you remember? Because that would cause them tension, because they realize that they have issues, memory issues. Now, some of them go in and out. They'll know exactly what's going on, and then suddenly they'll forget things. Now, the first time that I went to one of these programs, I just gave an introduction to the baseball hour. And I talked about my going to my first baseball game. And then I asked if anybody would like to tell us about any baseball games that they may have seen. And I don't ask that of any specific person. I just say it to the group. And it's nice to have somebody there with you who is working with you, because if there's silence in the group, that person can say, let's say it's a young lady. Like I prepped my wife. She went with me to one of the meetings, and she said, oh yeah, I went there on a date, or I went there with my girlfriend to a Yankee Red Sox game, and I saw Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio in the same game. So, you know, and mention names of players. Then the next time I went, I gave a program of attending a game at Yankee Stadium, going there by subway, and you mention the subway, so you have transportation. buying a ticket, going to your seat, and then the music that you would hear at Yankee Stadium, Robert Merrill singing the national anthem. At the end of the fifth inning, the groundskeepers coming out and you hear them singing YMCA, and then they would drop the skids and they would do YMCA, they would sing. And I would hope that the participants there would start singing YMCA. And then in the seventh inning, Kate Smith singing God Bless America. And I'd have music involved in the program. And then at the end of the game, Frank Sinatra would sing New York, New York as you leave Yankee Stadium. So I would try to recreate an experience of going to the ball game with music.
I'm sorry, George, I just want to interrupt for a minute. Music is very, very important. Anytime you can weave that into your presentation.
Right.
But George, thanks for sharing with us about it. What I want to do now is really open up the floor so we can answer your questions. So go ahead and raise your hand or just speak up and let's get the ball rolling on the questions.
This is Tad. I got some.
All right.
Rather than ask one question, I think I'll just ask a whole bunch. And what I'm interested in is sort of the real details, the mechanics of a meeting, for instance, and such things as, is it one-on-one or is it a people sit and there's an audience? Is there a, how does somebody pick the individuals who have an interest in baseball? Because my experience is anybody who comes to speak about anything, most of the residents will just want to hear something because they're so lonely. And so is it everybody? Is it a small group? And then, you know, is it an hour? Just kind of.
Sure. Let's unpack those questions. There's a lot there. Number one, the organization you get affiliated with, they will be the ones to pick the people to participate, and they provide the facility. And it's very important that if you do anything physical with them, it's very important for you to say to them, look, if we do a game of catch or batting practice, you guys are on the hook for any liability. But so number one, they'll find the people for you and they provide the place where you all come and meet. Our program in Los Angeles before COVID was 2 hours. And much like George did, we patterned our experience much like a baseball game. Everybody got a baseball when they walked in to hold on to. That's our conduit to get us to our field of dreams. And we start out singing the anthem. We have the player introductions, and then we proceed. And about 3/4 of the way through, we sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." And contrasting it though with the veterans before COVID, we only did an hour. Now during COVID, went over Zoom, we do 1 hour there. And as George mentioned earlier, it's very important when you put together, I always put together an agenda and I share that with my partner at Alzheimer's Los Angeles, and they buy off on it. And you know, sometimes we have a theme, sometimes we'll have a special guest, so you provide the structure and the content and you lead and facilitate it, and they will provide the facility and the people who will participate. Jim and Monty, I don't know if you have anything to add on to that.
Yeah, we, if anybody's interested, Monty and I have put together like a 12-page, what we call a case study that has from the very first day that we contacted Alzheimer's Texas to who does what. Just as important, all the mistakes we made in our first season. Just as one example, when you work with dementia, they encourage you to use what they call sensory prompts. So we'll spread old baseball cards out on the table. John mentioned handing them a baseball. We've actually popped popcorn in our meetings to get the smell of the ballpark. Well, at our very first meeting, Jim had this bright idea that we would pass out old box scores from 1953 and use that as a reminder of some of the names that we're going to be talking about. What Jim did not think about is that people with cognitive decline can't read that kind of detail. So if you want to know all the mistakes you don't want to make in the first season, I would encourage you to get a hold of our case study because it's quite lengthy. But it's evolved. We don't live in a major league city, so part of the screening process when people sign up is we will ask them their favorite team, their favorite player, and then we try to build our agendas around their interest.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. And you know, do you do some homework ahead of time based on the individual?
Well, sometimes we ask them, what do you want us to talk about?
Yeah.
You know, at the VA, we have a lot of African Americans there. They said, do a whole presentation on the Negro Leagues. We want to know all about it. So yeah, ask them what they like. But just for getting started, you can just say, well, most of these people here are 70, 80, 90 years old. And baseball was very big in the American consciousness in the 50s and 60s. So you really can't go wrong there. And in terms of trying to find where you can get started, you know, George mentioned some senior centers. Alzheimer's Association has chapters all over the country. The Veterans Administration, and also talk to people in your local government. My council member, I'm going to be reaching out to my council member's office because we have a lot of senior communities where I live. Who else has a question?
If I can just add, I've been doing this alone. I've been looking for people to work with me because in case the last minute I can't be there, that the program continues. In Los Angeles and in Texas and in St. Louis, they've been working with groups. So each place has to adjust with the number of people that you have presenting the program. The way I set it up for me, and some of you might be doing this alone or with just somebody else, I prepare the hour that I'm going to spend with them as if I was a school teacher preparing a lesson plan. I have it all laid out. I have it on my computer. I have the YouTubes all set up in the order in which I want to present to them. I have a sheet that I print out with exactly what I want to do. And I'll start with that and work my way down. Sometimes I don't even complete the entire program because there's so much participation, which is great. That's the best thing. The best thing is you never even get to your program because they're talking about the home run that Tatis hit with the bases loaded. And they got so excited about watching that. So if they engage in a conversation, you help with that conversation. But I approach this fully prepared and have it all written out and set up on my computer. I then hook up my computer with a cable to the back of a large TV monitor. And then they can watch whatever I'm going to be putting on the screen as if they're looking at a large TV set. In addition, when I do that, I have all of the participants sitting in a circle, a semicircle, so that they're all facing each other. I don't have them sitting row by row where somebody's back is to the back of the next person. I want them all to look at each other and see each other and speak to each other so that when I go on my program, I don't have to wing it. I think if you get into a situation where suddenly you have to wing it, you might have a problem. And I'm trying to avoid that. So
George is very right. The semicircle piece is very, very important. We do that as well, yeah, as well as with the VA. But let's take some more questions. Who's got a question?
Okay, if nobody has a
go
question,
ahead. No. I see a question here from Frank.
Okay.
When you're talking about sitting in a semicircle, is there an optimum size? I mean, do you try to cap it at a certain number before it gets too unwieldy?
That is a very good question. In my opinion, I think these affairs are more effective in an intimate size, say a maximum of 20. I think my friends in Texas, you guys might have had more people than 20.
We've had as many as 40, but what we try to do is make sure that the participants and caregivers sit on the inner circle, and then we have extra volunteers. We will put them towards the back.
Go ahead, Frank.
What do your volunteers do, Jim? I mean, if the participants in the front, what are the volunteers that are sitting in the back doing?
Well, with that large group, that's the Sun City group. I mentioned that we had 20 volunteers before we had anybody sign up. What we did is for the opening day, as I think John would call it, we matched up volunteers. So if I had a participant that was a St. Louis Cardinal fan, I would match up some volunteers to welcome that person into the meeting. They would sit beside them, talk about Stan Musial and Bob Gibson and the Cardinals beating my Red Sox back in whatever. We won't go there.
67.
67.
Yeah, I think the important thing though, and I think Monty and Dan and Mike, we do not try to differentiate one iota as to who's a volunteer, who's a participant, and who's a caregiver. I think it was Dan, if I'm in one of our third or fourth meetings, one of our participants standing we have lunch and asked, I think it was Dan, are you one of us? And it's like, I think that's really cool that he didn't know. And I think that's the kind of atmosphere you're trying to create.
I have a question. Has anybody tried to start one of these groups during COVID where you can't be there in person?
I don't think that anyone has been successful yet. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, we are working through, there's what they call a memory cafe network, and all of their programs now are online during the pandemic. We're doing some presentations for them. I had a meeting this week with the person in charge of the Texas network, and they're dying for programming. So that's an option. I think John and I would be willing to help anyone that's interested in experimenting with an online program. But the most effective way to go is...
So we had a memory cafe program at my church some years ago. I'm wondering if this is a similar kind of effort. So that it's a national organization?
Actually, if I can give you my email address, if you'll write me, I can check the directory and see if it's one and the same.
I can look online too.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning
Very good,
that.
Marlene.
And I wanted to, John, this is Mike. I'm talking about the Texas group. When you were talking about, someone asked about like what the volunteers would do. It's usually the way we have ours, and I'm talking a little bit pre-COVID, just because now everything's online. Even if we had that many volunteers, a lot of times we would just try to like space them out with the people who have Alzheimer's and the caregivers. And a lot of the stuff that time we did, there would be presentations. So there's 4, 5, 6 presentations in the course of 9 minutes. And maybe each volunteer would be getting up for 10 minutes and getting to the front. Like George had said, he's got it plugged into a TV set, so there's a screen going. So someone would be talking about no-hitters, and you would have a couple of videos of no-hitters. So that person would be up doing their presentation. Then they would sit down and the next person would come up and talk about ballpark food or things like that. In addition to that, there are times that we were doing hands-on activities. We played baseball bingo, or we breaking in a glove. And so the volunteers would just sort of be a lot more hands-on with some of the people who either have forgotten how to break in a glove, maybe just never did. Some didn't have a glove. There's one guy we have, he's a big baseball guy, a big football guy, and he didn't play baseball as a kid, but he just liked sports. So we would sort of space ourselves around the table and just help out people if they needed it as we went along.
Very good. And I should say in Los Angeles, there's just three of us. Barry, our president, works with me on presenting to the veterans on Saturdays. And because Alzheimer's Los Angeles can only happen on a Friday, Jeff Hubbard was one of our guys. He took that over for me when it became too hard for me to do that because of my work schedule. So we share the load a little bit, but typically there's one lead that would be me, and then I tell the other guys where I need the help. We backfill each other there. There was a question someone asked about, do you receive any support from your local major and minor league baseball team? The answer to my experience is yes. The Dodgers provided 20 tickets for wheelchair-bound veterans to a baseball game against the Giants. And it was marvelous because they don't have the budget to go to Major League Baseball games. So yes, reach out to them. And if they can give you baseball cards or schedules or tchotchkes that you can use as sensory pieces, anytime we can engage as many of the senses as possible, that's very strong therapy for the people in our programs.
John, did you approach the Dodgers?
I did. All of these places have a community relations component.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, the Dodgers are one of my clients, so I knew somebody there that I could talk to. Right. But certainly all the major league teams have a liaison.
I'd like to add that
it feels like, no, I'm sorry, very quickly, and it feels like we, as Jim said, we don't have a major league team right now, city. We have a AAA team, and it seems like the minor league teams are probably even more willing to get involved in the community because really that's what they live on. The Dodgers are going to draw 2 million. Minor league teams really have a lot of outreach programs that go throughout the community at every level, from little league up to everything you can imagine. So we've been really lucky with that at Dell Diamond and the Round Rock Express.
Don't forget college teams. The UCLA baseball stadium is right by the VA facility, and we go to games there too. So definitely there's no reason why you couldn't tie in a high school game or a college game. George, you were going to say something.
Yeah. When Michael Ego and I got together and we were talking about the engagement of major league teams, he had tried to get the Yankees and the Mets involved and was unsuccessful with that. Now, that might have been because this was very new. This whole program is just 5 or 6 years old. And if you get turned down once, you go again with more material and showing how this is growing and how more places are getting involved. Also, management changes with teams. I mean, the Mets are going to get a new owner. They're going to get new people involved, I'm sure. And they might decide that they want to get involved in some way. So that a refusal does not mean it's forever. I think important that you remember what happened with what Jim said. He got his church involved and church groups involved. I got involved with 2 community groups. One is a Westchester County, New York community group, and the other one was a non-sectarian group that's run by Westchester Jewish Community Services. So if you get involved with religious groups, they can lead you to places that serve Alzheimer's and dementia patients, because every place, any place we belong to, have people, have family, relatives, or friends who have dementia. We all know people with that. And as we get older, unfortunately, we get to know more and more people like that. So that various leaders in the community that we know personally can then introduce us to places that need these. Now, I also want to add that one of the things that I do is I approach not-for-profit organizations. I don't go to places that are for-profit. Now that's up to you, if whatever you want to
George,
do.
I think we need to be careful getting into those waters at this particular moment, because
Okay.
our primary objective is to get these programs out there.
Right.
I don't think, can we just put a pin in that for the moment?
Sure.
Okay, because we only have 30 minutes left, let me charge ahead to some of the questions that were mailed in. There was a question about if there are any geographical limitations, can we reach out to other countries? I think that's fine. We've reached out to Mike in Scotland. I think the process should be, if you find somebody outside of the country, please involve us. Let us be a part of that. So that we can participate in the process of contacting these folks and so on and so forth. There, are cultural considerations to be made and so on and so forth. There was another question about outreach to Major League Baseball affiliated programs such as the MLB Urban Youth Academy. So need to be aware that Major League Baseball has a program called Major League Memories in every city where there's a major league team. And they all have alumni programs. So an older player, a retired player, will go to a senior community and basically engage the folks there, share stories, so on and so forth. I know Michael Ago was rebuffed by Major League Baseball when he approached them. And for my money, and this is just me speaking, my opinion is I would avoid them completely, because their focus is not our focus. And I think we'll go a lot farther on our own as a grassroots organization. So yeah, but I would reach out to your local minor league teams. There was a question about reaching out to softball leagues. I'm not quite sure what the thought was there. Kimmy, that was a question you had posed. Do you want to elaborate on that further?
Well, I know we have so many women's softball leagues now, so I thought that it would be nice to kind of reach out to them to get them more involved. And,
okay. Well, I think getting people involved at any level is a good thing. If you want to have them come and participate and maybe give a very brief talk. And we've talked about having special guests, like we had Ron Say of the Dodgers a couple months ago. It was awesome. Everybody went nuts. The problem with that is if you have too many of them, you've got the special guests talking most of the time. And the idea is to get the participants talking. Reaching out to senior centers and city libraries, absolutely. And someone mentioned church groups. And there was also a question, I think from Bill, is there anything happening yet in the Chicago area? No, but we'd love to see it get started. And I know some of us are thinking about, well, how am I going to get any traction trying to get a program started during the pandemic? My approach to this is, number one, find these people through a variety of means, Alzheimer's Association, what have you, and try to work with them and say, look, do you have someone who does IT work at your facility for your seniors? And try and set up a situation where you do everything over Zoom. They log in just like we all did today. They log in and we basically set up an agenda, and I will share that. Someone's been asking for examples of our agendas, and we'll make those available to you. But that would be the big trick, is that they have to have the staffing report. For example, we wanted to get our Veterans Administration program going, and Barry, our president, could only do it on a weekend. He said, well, we don't have staff here. I said, that's a big problem, because the first time out, we want staff there to help these people get on their mobile devices so that they're confident that they can participate. So there's ways around this, and you just have to make sure that the organization you're dealing with has the resources to support you in getting this on Zoom or another means where people can connect through their mobile device. What about some more questions you folks might have?
John?
Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah. Hey, just so I can wrap my head around this. So what it sounds like, you target an organization that you feel is set up for this program. You meet with the head of that organization, present this program, the benefits of the program. once that's accepted and you understand who the audience is going to be, the age, the background, and then you start putting your agenda together in your program, and then you simply present it. And it could, the agenda, the topic could be baseball cards. It could be memories of their first baseball game. It could be any number of things that's related to baseball. It's essentially just getting prepared for the presentation and following the guidelines as set by the organization. Is that it in a nutshell?
Kelly, that is a very logical progression. And in my case, I just got on the phone and said, hey, this is the kind of thing we're thinking about doing. How does that sound to you? Great, let's try it out. So there wasn't a lot of back and forth and sending papers and this and that. It was just, come on in, let's try it out. And then, you know, be prepared to ask them questions, the nature that you described. And then you just kind of get out there and you go for it.
Okay.
I'd like to add that, Kelly, it doesn't have to be about baseball. We did some presentations at the VA on college football. Jim always has something on, you know, old cowboy movies, you know, cartoon characters, you know, old movies, you know, just anything that you think is going to generate interaction, and you just use your imagination. It's baseball is kind of the focus, the central focus, but it isn't the only thing. You just use your imagination, whatever, find out what people are interested in, and then just fly with it. You know, just, you know, you can't go wrong.
That's a fair point, Dan. Kimmy, you had a question.
Yes, John, I just have a question regarding, right now I'm trying to outreach to different senior organizations. And so if they say, yes, we're interested, is there a certain protocol letter that you can help them with as far as?
I think the short answer is yes. Consider us a resource. You know, if you find an organization that says, we're interested in this program, tell us more. You could say, we'll get back to you with some information. And then we can have a dialogue with you, Kimmy, and find out more about these folks. And I think it's very important to understand what are the goals and objectives of the people you're partnering with, because then you can customize your content to their goals and needs. I think that's really important. But so I think that would be the process, Kimmy. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
All right, Bill, you had a question.
John?
Go ahead, Bill Grimes.
Yeah, I just want to let everyone know, I don't have a question at the moment, but my website is free for you to use. If you want to get me involved, there's a story just about every day of the year on an event from that day in baseball history. Do any of you know what today is the anniversary of?
Two things, yeah. Bobby Thompson's home run and the publication of Ball 4.
Right. And I've got a story today, for example, of Bobby Thompson, and it's more than just a short blurb. It's a story about what happened, how they came back from 13 games down. But if you want to use any of these stories, I think it may stimulate some conversation with some of these patients. You could, for example, read the story of that was on their birthday or their daughter's birthday.
Sure.
Or Christmas
What's your
Day.
website, Bill?
Every year I've got a story.
Give us the web address, Bill.
It's todayinbaseball.com. All one word.
Yeah, and it's a great website. I've been there, and we're going to be folding it into our program. And I just want to just take a moment, a brief trivia quiz that ties in thematically. I have 3 questions for you all, and they all tie in the disease. So, which Hall of Famer recently died of complications of dementia?
Seaver.
Very good. Name this slugger who died of dementia at age 71, played Major League Baseball, 17 seasons, 336 homers for the Reds, Braves, Indians, and Angels. Oh, I'm surprised. This is
Ted Kluszewski?
No, that's a very, very good guess.
Yeah.
Here's a hint. He's one of a handful of people to homer over the center field wall in the Polo Grounds.
Oh, Lou Brock.
No.
But he did not play for the Angels, did he?
Reds, Braves, Angels. Oh my God.
Joe Adcock.
Ah.
Wow.
Hit 4 home runs in one game, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
I would just like to mention that if, you know, we do trivia, but I don't do trivia. It depends on the group that you're addressing, because trivia involves memory recollection, and you have to be sensitive to that. So it's worked for John. It would not work for my group. But I'd like to say this. I'm here in the New York, Connecticut area, New Jersey also. I'm available to help any of you from wherever you are. You have to get the venues and the approvals. And if any of you like in this area, because I'm not taking planes lately, I would meet with you before you do the program. We could do the program together. If you want me to go in the first time to do a program so that you see how I do it, I would do that. So that you feel relaxed when you do your program. You can do a run through, a dress rehearsal, so to speak. Or if I run a program, you can sit like a fly in the wall and just watch it. If you do the program, we can sit after the program and we can do a mutual critique of what went on, so that none of us are doing this alone. None of us are doing it unprepared. We have to go in fully prepared. And I'm willing in my area to meet with you just to discuss it, either Zoom, personally, or on the phone, whatever is convenient for us to do this. This is not something that's going to happen tomorrow, you know, October 4th. This is going to be a long-term thing that we think should expand, that's necessary. We have this Alzheimer's dementia problem. Everybody knows about it, as we mentioned before. We also have a tremendous loneliness problem.
Right.
That's an epidemic, and people need the social contact. So whatever we're doing in this will help a lot of people. And so baseball is just the entry. Then it's everything else, as Dan mentioned. It's all these other subjects we can get into. In fact, one member of the group that I was in said, these women are not coming into your program because they think it's just baseball. Can you change the name of the program? Well, if that's what it takes, you change the name of the program. It doesn't.
And that speaks to customizing your program.
That's right.
To your audience.
Yes, because
you know, for example, I'm sorry, George. For example, our program is gender neutral. You know, we have a number of women who come in there, but George drives home a very good point that we are a resource, and George is offering, if you need help in your area, he's happy to help out at any level. So one more trivia question, and then we'll go back to your question. The last trivia question is, name this player who died of dementia at age 69, former National League batting champion, played 22 seasons for the Dodgers, Cubs, Red Sox, Angels, and Royals.
He couldn't keep a job.
Bill Buckner?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Bill Buckner is correct. I did not know he died of dementia.
Yes.
But interesting. Okay, let us answer more questions from you.
I want to ask if somebody could clarify. And George, it's a very generous offer, and I certainly would love to be in touch with you as we get going here in Las Vegas, as Monty and John have been really helpful at this very early stage. But I assume during this age of COVID, we're talking about everything being online, everything being Zoom, or is anybody meeting in person? And if so, are you concerned about the safety issue?
They're not.
Okay.
That's the answer. Senior centers, what have you? Absolutely not. And that's exactly what they should be doing, especially when you're talking about senior citizens who are at high risk.
So if people are trying to, I mean, here it's going to be virtual 6-8 months a year. So, but the beauty of that is that it's not geographic specific, you know, that we can share resources or intern with those, so to speak, who are already doing it. So my interest would be if somebody's, you know, if somebody does go online, do this by Zoom with their group, if we could know, and a couple of us could, you know, sit in on that. I mean, too many people would be whatever, but or the other way is to say, like, we have groups here that are, you know, looking for programs. Can your group, if you have people who you're doing a Zoom with, can another group be, you know, can be invited to be a part of that? I'm just brainstorming here in terms of the virtuality of this thing.
Yeah, so there's two questions there. And then in terms of observing, yes, let us know if you'd like to observe. I have one coming up October the 23rd, and that's by Zoom. And one of the good things about Zoom is that we have more participation because people don't have to get into a car and drive to the center.
Right.
Now, in terms of having one group tag on to another group, it's a different matter. We haven't tried that. Some people's goals and objectives might not be the same. There might be some political considerations. You know, if you wanted to get an Alzheimer's group here or a private senior center and kind of group those together, you'd have to have a pretty good discussion with the leaders of both of those places to make sure they're comfortable with that.
What about having, like, us rookies who are starting up or trying to start up, giving us the opportunity to sit in and just watch what you do?
Sure, that's what Meredith was just asking. Meredith was just asking about that. Absolutely, Rob. Like I said, I've got one coming up on October the 23rd.
Okay.
If you're interested in sitting in, please get in touch with us. I think our emails, they're all available there on our SABR site, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Monty's done a great job doing all this. So,
yeah, I think
go ahead and reach out.
Yeah, our contact information's on the SABR page for the Baseball Reminiscence group, but we will also capture some a meeting summary and get that out to all of you so that you will have a summary of what we talked about, as well as additional links to some of the resources that we talked about as well.
Also, this chat is copyable, and there's a lot of good information in here in this back and forth that's going on.
Yeah. And, you know, we're recording this for our own purposes. Typically, I think the people that I work with, we can't record our sessions because of privacy concerns. But anyhow, I believe that, Frank, you had a question?
Yeah, John, when you're talking about doing these meetings virtually, and you're dealing with people who are of a senior age, do you find there's a technical challenge for them to participate? I mean, I assume you're looking at a screen like we're looking at with 25, 29 people. I mean, how do you call on people? I mean, how do you interact? You're actually doing it selectively by calling on people as opposed to sitting there like in a round robin situation.
Right. And we've worked through this with our partner at Alzheimer's Los Angeles, because sometimes the Alzheimer's folks or dementia folks are a little bit reticent. So what we've discovered, and then what happened is there'd be this pregnant pause, and then someone who doesn't have Alzheimer's jumps in and they end up taking up a bunch of time. So what we do is, you know, I look at a screen like this, I can see everybody's name and I'll call them out. Hey, Steve Leppert, tell us about the first time you went to a Dodger game. Boom, that's a prompt. So yeah, basically we call on them in this particular context. And if it was, if we were there physically, I'd just go around the room and I'd say, well, Kimmy, what do you think? Or that sort of thing. So did I answer your question, Frank?
Yeah, you did, but I'm kind of thinking like sort of like kids in school. The teacher asks a question and nobody raises their hands, and so she's got to pick on somebody. And does that make them feel like being put on the spot?
Well, no, I think it's the kind of thing where you just have to feel it out a little bit. Almost all of these people are there with a caregiver. And to answer your other question with the tech piece, we haven't had a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't call on people individually. Frank is right in bringing up this point. You don't want to create a tension. I would say, who would like to tell me about about a ball game they went to, or something like that. And I would hope that if nobody answers, that an aide might answer. I just encourage conversation, that they hear people speaking. And I would not call on anybody. Now, in my place, all of the people wear their name. They have a pin or something around their neck with their name on it. I try to learn their names. It's very hard, because if you got 20 people sitting in a room, you only see them once or twice a month. It's hard to know everybody's name, but I try to remember the names, especially those who like to speak.
Sure.
And,
now, George, we have a separate situation, because I was asked by caregivers and my partners at Alzheimer's Los Angeles, please call on these people. Now, there's a way to do that so that they don't feel picked on, and they don't feel like they're being jammed into a corner and that they have to speak. There's a way to do that. But I agree with you. That's a potential point of concern. But I've gone ahead and done that with these, simply because the caregivers have asked. They said, my dad is shy. He just needs a prompt. So I think if you look at it, this is a prompt rather than an interrogation. I think that's another way to look at it.
We send out the topics and questions ahead of time so the caregivers can prepare with their partner. The other thing we've tried to get on our online presentations is talk about favorites, not who did this, who did that. Who is your favorite ball player? So there's not a wrong answer. And it seems to be working pretty well.
Yeah, and that's why we send our agendas to our partners in advance, so they know the theme, and so they can share to their attendees, hey, this month we're talking about the greatest catchers in Major League Baseball, or what have you, so that there's a level of expectation. We're going to talk about this. Structure is very important to people with memory care issues. So we only have about 7 minutes left. I want to make sure we're answering as many of your questions as possible.
Yeah, I got a quick one. In discussing this with other organizations, is this a SABR activity? Is it a SABR program, right, or is it a separate, program that SABR has just endorsed?
Well, and I'll let the other fellows jump in. We come in as, when you come in as the society under the auspices of the Society for American Baseball Research, that has a little bit more gravitas than Joe Smith from down the street. But also remember that you are representing this organization, and not to suggest anybody wouldn't be courteous or professional. Jim or Monte,
that was more of a legal, like, is this SABR showing up at a long-term care facility? Is this part of SABR, or are these just volunteers and SABR has a loose connection?
I think it's the latter. I don't know, Jim or Monte.
No, I agree. We presented volunteers and content deliverers to Alzheimer's Texas. They're the ones that do the signups. Same thing at the church. Same thing, I guess, at the VA hospital, although there aren't officially registrations. So we have a sponsoring organization. Now that we are recognized by SABR, maybe we're going to evolve into something different, but that's the way we handle it in Central Texas.
Yeah, I've been handling it alone. Nothing, no reference is made to SABR at all. I don't say I'm representing SABR because I'm not, and I haven't. I've been a member of SABR since 1986, and the way I look at this is we're all here to attain a certain goal. And what SABR is doing, it has allowed us to have a community of interest where we all have the same goal in common to present this type of program, and we're here to support each other and help each other in creating the program. SABR is the organization that can help us keep together and keep us communicating. But we really are doing this, from the way I look at it, on our own. But we, even though we're doing it on our own, I know that if I run into a situation, I know now I can call on Monty and Jim and John, as well as that you can call on any of us to discuss a program or an idea. So the fact that we're members of SABR gives us something that we have in common. But you don't have to be a member of SABR to do this. This is a very worthwhile type of project and thing that is necessary. This social communication, this communication of people is so important that it's for us as individuals to be motivated to do it, to support each other. And thankfully, SABR is behind us in communicating. And that's the way I look at it, John.
Okay, I think everybody takes it as they feel will work
John?
for them. Any questions?
Yeah, just as a follow-up.
Yes.
So when you all follow up, you all send us a case study or some of your resources. Will that be, I get lots of emails, so I'm always losing stuff. I lose track of it. So is it going to come like from SABR Reminiscence interest group, or how do you plan to communicate with all of us is what I'm asking? Or is it just through the SABR network itself only?
Monty, you want to take that on?
Well, there's a couple ways we can go, but one of the facilities that we have by being now a SABR chartered community is we have a roster of members, and we have the capability as administrators to send out emails to all of you that have signed up as members of this group. So a straightforward way to do it is to use that email capability to send information out to everybody in the group. We also have a website, some limited website capabilities that we can use. And certainly we can communicate amongst each other just by open email as well. So as far as, for instance, minutes of the meeting and these resources and such, I would probably send those out via the SABR mailing community, because that will provide that information to all currently 44 members of our SABR Reminiscence group.
What about individuals like Meredith? Would we respond to them directly from our private emails?
We certainly can, sure.
Okay, sure. Somebody else asked, the Zoom account, who provides that? When I work with Alzheimer's Los Angeles, they provide the Zoom account. You want to mitigate your out-of-pocket expenses, obviously. For example, the people in Texas were smart enough to get some sponsors. In Los Angeles, we're a little slower than those folks because we don't have that kind of support that would help to defray things like, the cost of gas, getting back and forth.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, we have sponsors, Jeff? You've been holding out on me?
I've got your paycheck in the mail, Mike.
I thought I read you guys had people sponsors. I apologize if I got
They
that
buy
wrong.
lunch, but they don't pay for gasoline.
And I think we use Jim's Zoom, right? Jim,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it brings up a good point. You know, you may incur some out-of-pocket expenses, which are tax deductible. You just need to keep track of them. Marlene, you had a question?
So I've been a chapter leader for a while, and it's very useful for me to use the SABR admin email system. So I'd encourage everybody to sign up for that. But I think we can also use that as a tool to contact each other as a group. So I just checked, there is an email all members option for me when I look at my baseball reminiscence group. I don't know if that comes from saber.chapters.org or whatever that is, but it helps keep it all in one place, so the people who are administering this don't have to keep multiple email lists. So let's everybody join.
And Monty, is there an opportunity for our members here to be able to find the link to take them to the Google Drive that has the reference and resource information?
Yes, I can accumulate that. The Google Drive. We have some extensive resources on our SABR chapter website here in Texas. It's open and easily accessible. So I can put together a list of those resources and get that out to everybody. Certainly.
That would be great.
That would be
Thank you.
great.
Thank
We've come to the end of our time. Is there any other questions or comments before we move on with our lives with our cherished weekend time?
Thank you very much. This was
Thank you.
incredibly
Yeah,
helpful.
thank
I'm
you very
glad
much.
to hear
Thank
everybody
you.
and see everybody, and very encouraged that this is a real doable thing. It just takes a little work and thought, but I'm very encouraged.
Right.
And it's
Thank you.
amazing how much around the country everybody is. I mean, it's a real varied group geographically here. It's exciting.
Yes.
I think SABR as an organization and our members are great people to spearhead a program like this. We're storytellers, we're historians, we're people, well, some of us are people persons, but I think it's a great opportunity for SABR. But as George mentioned earlier, it's much more about getting this program out and helping our fellow man and enhancing the quality of life of people who are struggling. Because if you've known anyone who's had dementia or Alzheimer's and lives in a senior community, even in very expensive ones, they don't get the care and attention they really deserve.
Hey, John, and
another
just
thing I wanted to share with everyone is I want to thank everyone for their interest today in hoping to form a baseball reminiscence program at your respective sites. But this is something my brother Michael envisioned about 2 or 3 years ago. And so I really do want to thank everyone today, especially Jim and George, Monty, John, for all your kind words today. And John, I know you have mentioned that I have a feeling that my brother's spirit is here with all of us. Thank you.
Very good. Jim, were you going to say something?
But John, I was going to say, this is Monty, I was going to say something. You know, I think we've all bought into the fact that this is an important program. There's a need out there, and SABR members are the people that can deliver on it. I would say, and I think, you know, the folks that have been involved in programs, yourself and all of us in Texas and George, you may not realize it yet, but you as the volunteer will get a lot out of this in return. In fact, I think you will all find that it's you will all find that this is a very rewarding effort.
Well said, and a good way for us to end.
Oh, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for coming today and spending time with us and your interest in a program. And I think we're off to a great start, and we're here to help you. So please reach out for any information you're unable to find on your own through our little resource and URL that Monty will be sharing with you.
Thank you.
Everybody be safe
Thank
this
you.
weekend. Take care.
Yes.
Hey,
Yeah.
thank
You
you.
too. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Good job.
Bye.